I mean, it is important to you, and that's what you're there for, but it's also important to them that they got to be happy, because a happy employee, you can't make everybody happy. Let's just make that clear. But, by asking and getting ideas, they get 5 days off and work too. And that might be something that one of your guys wants to do. And just throw out some options. Always ask, and it helps. Maybe they might make them happy, but at least they feel like you care about what they think. It's that time again, everyone, and welcome back to Hard Hat the CEO. Yes, this is Chris G. And producer Kevin. How you doing, Kevin, today?
I couldn't have done too bad. I was invited back, so that is always a good sign. I'm doing well. I'm excited to chat. I'm always thinking of topics, right?
Yeah.
For the amazing people we have the opportunity and privilege to work with. And I knew I was meeting with you today. And one of the things that's very big in our space and self-improvement is work-life balance. And I'm a business owner. You're a business owner. Oftentimes when you hear work-life balance, you're maybe juggling a 9 to 5 and kids and all that stuff. What is your perspective on achieving a work-life balance as a full-time contractor?
Well, it goes back to scheduling. And I think you almost have to have schedule, just like you schedule your crews, you got to schedule time. And that's hard to do sometimes. And I learned that back in college. As a matter of fact, an alternative brother called me the other day. So what are you doing? I said, well, I'm scheduling stuff. And I had to schedule all the time. And they go, well, are you still doing that like we're taught in college? I was like, well, I guess in a way we are. We just, you got to set a time. And if you don't set that time, it doesn't become as important to you.
Mm.
And today I'm a grandfather. And back then I was, I have 2 daughters. That's not, I could talk about it now, but it's not as easy as it sounds sometimes, but you do have to schedule time and decide what your priorities are, really. I went to a Christmas presentation the other day with my grandchildren, and they all got up there and sang. But I had to make a decision. That's more important to me than going and doing something else.
Mm.
Somebody gets wrapped up in, well, are you making money? Well, it's not all about the money, about the time, in my opinion. Money is important, obviously. You can't have the time without the money per se. But really the schedule, make a decision, what's your priority, whether it be with your wife, well, I'm a guy, I guess, your spouse, put it that way, and your how you want your time spent, and what you don't want to miss and what you do want. It's okay to miss.
Hmm.
Now there's emergencies. I'm a landlord too, and there's just sometimes you got to go take care of business. But the best part is now I have a manager to take care of that. And as you build your business, whether it's being an electrician, plumber, anything like that, if you hire your team, and that sounds like a pretty good. We talk about team next week maybe. But if you have a team that you can delegate to, then it makes it a lot easier as well, because things are getting taken care of, and that's their responsibility, and allows you to not only focus on your work-life balance, but other things that are strategic to your business.
What was your expectation versus the reality in the beginning when it came to work-life balance? Was it, as an entrepreneur, I thought I was going to have more time. I was incorrect. Sadly incorrect.
You got that right. I guess my expectation is kind of like yours, where you thought you were going to have a lot of time, and you don't. It's just time spent other ways.
Yeah.
But it's better spent on the things I'm doing today. One thing I do love, and I don't think a lot of people had this opportunity. When I was growing up, my grandmother watched us during the summer because we didn't have school. And then she was always home at night after school, and got a school bus. And I always appreciated that she was always around. And I always thought, well, how did she make money? Well, she made money through CDs and deposits. I mean, she made money through other ways. But she never, as my lifetime, ever had a job, as you and I would consider it. And that is the balance I have today, that I get to spend with my grandchildren.
Mm.
That if there's a snow day, where are you going? Poppy daycare. And that's me, and I can still get my work done, or whatever it is, I'm available. And I'm glad to be able to spend that time with my grandchildren like my grandmother spent with me. So that wasn't intended. As what your question was, what did I expect? That wasn't intended, but it is available to me, and allowing me having teams and people that do the things that they're good at allows me to that freedom today.
So if you had to break it into How long have you been doing this? How long have you been a contractor?
Well, actually, in the construction side since 2017, but I've been flipping homes longer than that I've, in theory, working for myself, where I've hired contractors to come in and do stuff. That's how I kind of evolved into what I am today.
Mm.
But I've been doing that since 2001.
Okay. So let's say if you had to break it into seasons. So
Yeah.
the first 3 years for me where there is no balance, balance does not exist. It doesn't matter. Now, if I want to go to dinner with my wife, that's something I work in. But what were the seasons like? Was it just hustle and grind? What was
Well,
the
some ground
progression?
when I first started out because I didn't think I could afford people and did a lot myself. I could plumb and electric and everything but HVAC. I had no desire to do that, but because it requires licenses. But if I could do it, I did it. And I had a group of, we did actually back then we had a group of friends we created an LLC and we did the work ourselves. And that was important. I mean, but we worked a lot because I had 2 jobs and that's kind of like the bootstrapping thing. And then that evolved into now we got some extra money. What do we do with that? So we invested it. So over time, what was the next season? I guess the next would be investing that money and then the money coming in without having to work for it. And I don't mean not work as hard for it, you know. And then I got to a point where, this is silly of me. And one day, my friend, actually, I was doing a job, and this has been a long time ago. My friend I went to school with, he said, I called him and said, hey, what would it cost to do this? And I was just going to have him do part of the job, not all of it. And he said, Chris, do you realize how much time you spent? I said, well, yeah. He goes, let me just give you a price for the whole thing, and you tell me. And he come back at me, and I thought, holy, oh my gosh, this is stupid. Just do the whole job. It got done faster and better, probably. It probably was better. Don't get me wrong, but it just took me a long time to do it. What took me a week, they did in 2 days.
Mm.
And I have evolved into, and this is important to think about as a contractor or anything, business owner, build into your prices an alternate plan. And what I mean by that is that, if you got the plan B built into your price, that's great, just gravy, but it keeps you moving on in your schedule. Give you an example, concrete pump trucks. If it's dry enough, you don't need a pump truck. You just pull the trucks in, pour your concrete and get it done. But if it's too wet, that pump truck, you can still do it. You don't have to worry about getting the trucks stuck and the job's done and you get your next step in your production process. It's just, okay, just have plan B built in.
Mm.
Or even be willing to spend on plan B because it's going to take you, it's going to cost you a little more money up front, but you're going to get the job done faster. You're going to save money in the long run. That goes back to scheduling. But anyway, I forgot your question, but I get so sidetracked sometimes. I get excited, but no, I do like talking about that. The other seasons, I guess. So
Yeah.
we invested, got other people. That's right. That's how I got on my buddy Randall, and he come to me, and so that evolved into hiring other people and letting them do all of it, and just kind of scheduling stuff. Maybe your profit margins aren't there, but your time margins are, and that really adds up. And if the margins aren't there in that job, then go do more jobs, and you get more margin in many jobs. It's kind of like the Walmart and the grocery store
Yep.
philosophy: sell less but turn more. So I'm doing a whole lot more houses today than I ever do back by myself years ago.
Mm.
So
Okay. When you were trying to figure out, because you said it kind of happened by accident that you now are able to be grandpa.
yeah,
When somebody is trying to figure out what's important to them, what advice would you give? Because I know money seems like it makes the most sense. Like that's the thing to focus on. How did you work around that or through that? What was that process like?
lots of reading books and dreaming, and just some real heart to hearts. I mean, you really got to think about what's important to you.
Mm.
If you ever go out to the job site, and I don't mean it this way, but sometimes you say, "Man, you ever wish you weren't there?" Then you got to think about, okay, how do I get myself out of here? Maybe you got to stay there today, but what's going to happen next time? Or I don't get as much as I used to, but because we've got policy, procedures and so forth. But have you ever, sometimes the big guys get called for putting out fires, right?
Oh yeah.
And I don't mind putting out fires because it's important to put them out. But more importantly is to learn from those mistakes. So if it happens again, then you know what you're going to do, or the person in charge knows what to do and doesn't have to call you. Or more secondly, that maybe it doesn't happen again because you've created the situation or the policy so it doesn't happen again in the future. When you can eliminate it or you can manage it with a policy or procedure. But that's one way. I'm trying to think some other ones that you think about that look at your time. This is from college. They told you to take your calendar and you broke your day down. And if you're dead certain on not, well, here's one. If you're not going to if you're closed at 5, you're closed at 5. Don't answer the phone after 5. That teaches people that you're open after 5. Now, if you think you need to be open after 5, but you don't want to take the phone calls, create a strategy, whether it be a person or a call center, whatever that is. If you think your job or your company needs a after 5 person, that's fine, but don't let it be you. Set those parameters and teach your customers, teach your people how to go that. So like when I'm recording, if they see my office light and it says recording, that means don't bother me. And they know that, but I know that they have problems and I should be teaching them what to do, or they should know what to do without me. But going back to that calendar thing, set times in your calendar that you know you're going to take. If you are a big lunch person, you set aside the time for lunch, or say yoga or stretching or exercise, whatever it is that you find important to you. You got to schedule it and you just make it a habit. And once that's a habit, it becomes easy. Actually, you know what's going on.
What's your take on weekends? How's your take on weekends evolved? Like working weekends?
Well, I don't know if I'm still considered an alcoholic or not. Workaholic. Might be an alcoholic. I hope not. No, workaholic. I used to work all the time. That was just, I used to tease my family that the last name Gilman was German for work hard. And I'm hoping I'm changing it by now. You know, sometimes you do. There's nothing absolutely set in stone, being I had to work on the weekends. But if you train your people and you train especially your clients, that the weekends are the weekends and you're closed, and that's kind of it. Again, if you think that you need something, and that's really up to priority wise, how do you want to handle your business? Have somebody answer the phone. Let them decide if it's priority or not. Whether that phone call, once it's getting screened, they decide to come to you or they decide to send it to one of your people in the group, that's fine. I'm a Christian man and believe that, well, when you grew up, it was always Sunday was and I decided that, God didn't do Sunday. God just said rest once in 7 days. So I guess if you can rest once in 7 days, doesn't matter what day it is. So that's how I get about it. But most of my crews work 4-day weeks. So they get a 4th day off anyway. I mean, an extra day off, in my opinion. So I don't feel too bad. I do ask them to work extra. If something happens, it needs to happen, let's make it happen on Friday. That's your day off anyway. And if we can get it done by noon, that's even better, that type of thing. But that's how I see the weekends. Just keep it to yourself, or you could rotate through. If somebody's on call, that sometimes happens. HVAC clients, those are guys really, plumbers and HVAC. Electricians maybe a little bit, but those two guys really have it hard because they're depending on the type of plumbing. New construction plumbing is one thing. Service call plumbing is a whole different animal because you got to go. And how do you do that? Well, you have somebody on a call system. You rotate it through. We did a couple different things I've done before where X amount of weeks, like a 6-day work week, and you rotate it through and you're on call but you know that the following 6 weeks you have all Saturdays off. Or doesn't really have to be that way, but you do a calendar, go make that calendar thing. What I found with my employees was that it wasn't a question of working the weekends. It was a question of what weekends they had to work. So that communication thing, if you can give them a calendar and they know that this is your Saturday. I'm not saying you have to work this Saturday. I mean, you're on call. This is your call week, but you know for the year what Saturdays you're on call for. And that way they can schedule family business or family vacations and so on. I'm going to be off that weekend anyway.
Yeah.
Or if, or they also know that if something comes up and that's their weekend to work and they work it out with somebody else who's just as equally responsible and swap weekends, let them have that flexibility. But everybody knows their deal that so and so's working. That's my weekend to work. But I know that I can go somewhere else next weekend because I'm not working that Saturday or Sunday.
How long
That's
have you been doing the 4-day work weeks?
2017.
Have you, I'm sure you probably have based on you and knowing you, have you measured the efficiency of 4-day versus 5-day?
Not as much as you think. I've done a lot of studying. Well, I've done it through past history.
Mm-mm.
And on the second note, I have a lot of it's become that as far as everybody's normal to it. It's just kind of expected. 410s or 312. It doesn't seem as odd today that it did when I was growing up back in the 70s and 80s. So it's more acceptable. A lot of my crews are Amish. And I've probably talked about that before. But it doesn't have to be Amish. If your crews can do, and they're uh, well trained and really work together well, they can do in 4 days or even 2 days what some take 3 to 5 to do. And that sounds silly, but it's the truth. My little Amish crews are like little worker ants and they just go, go, go. No, it probably helps they don't have a cell phone. But anyway, but what's important is I have other people other than just Amish. But everybody knows what they're responsible for. And they know that's going. And I explained my particular Amish community going to work 2 days a week outside of the community. But I said, boys, it makes sense. And I understand your rules. And you all do a whole lot more in 2 days than a lot of people do in 4 or 5. And that's the truth. But I said, most people, our clients, are not Amish, and they don't understand that. So we spread out the crews where I have more crews and they just work more days. Now they're all working 2 days outside the community, but I got a couple overlap days. They know what's going on. And we produce actually quite a bit more in our 4 days than we would otherwise.
How
They'll be flexible.
Yeah. How focused are you with super efficiency? So let's say you only go into the house once with everything. You don't have to run back and forth. Like, how are you focused on that?
I'm probably too much because that's how I'm geared. It's teaching other guys that same philosophy and having them think ahead. And they probably get tired of me mentioning stuff, but I do just because I have a habit. I personally don't like hearing "I forgot." Where's my slate? Write it down then, and they know that, so don't forget. But I've given them pads, paper, to-do lists. Not everybody's like us. I mean, if you're a business owner, there's a reason you're a business owner, and the reason the guys work for you because they don't want to be a business owner, and we think different. So I had some coach, Alan to be exact, and Alan said, make a list. And I've heard that my dad said the same thing. My daughter said the same thing. Make a list. Because I was complaining one day. It's like, okay. So I make a list. Here's the things I expect them to do every day. And then if there's extra stuff that comes up, then you do it. And that kind of worked out well because you can't say they forgot because it's on your list. Oh yeah. Like lock the trailer. I'm making that one up, but things that, did you lock the trailer? Yes or no? Oh yeah. And it becomes a habit to them too. And I haven't got to this. I have at other places I've been turned into checklist. Now I haven't done that. You could do that if you feel it's necessary. But most of the guys realize, and smaller companies make that easier, and peer pressure. Peer pressure can be a bad thing, but also be a good thing too. Hey man, how you doing? And profit sharing becomes a part of that too. And we talk about profit sharing. I don't know if I talked to you about it, but we can talk about that in the future. But profit sharing becomes part of it too, because everybody shares in the profits, and they know if that job goes smoothly and estimated properly and everything like that, they're going to get part of that profits. And if something happens, everybody pays the price. So everybody's trying to look out for each other, and that's why I like profit sharing. But that's for another podcast. We'll talk about time now, but it makes time good too. That they can look at that list and say, oh yeah, I need to do that.
Is there anything we didn't touch on in terms of work-life balance that you think would be beneficial to share?
Ask your people what they think about it, because that's important to you. I mean, it is important to you, and that's what you're there for, but it's also important to them that they got to be happy, because a happy employee is like a happy client and everybody else. You can't make everybody happy. Let's just make that clear. But, by asking and getting ideas, because other opinions, other viewpoints can help that. They might find something very important to them that, I'll throw one out here. Not that that's one, but nurses. My daughter's a nurse, and she has a really great hours. But some nurses love working the weekends, but they get 5 days or what 2? Yeah, they get 5 days off and work 2, and that might be something that one of your guys wants to do, and just throw out some options. And it really depends on the size of your company, but always ask, and it helps. At least maybe they might make them happy, but at least they feel like you care about what they think.
Yeah.
Ask your family too. This is when I worked in the public corporate world. I did a lot of traveling for sales. You always hear about what you missed, and I did miss some things. And I'm sure my daughters might think differently. So ask your children, ask your spouse, ask whoever you want that you think is important to you, that you would appreciate their answer, and kind of contemplate how to spread your time out. So
we made a schedule shift recently. I was working essentially 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, not 5 days a week, and then half days on Saturday. And then we switched to pretty much 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But that hour has been a game changer, because I like to go to bed early. I like to get up early. So that 1 hour, even though I'm working 1 hour less a day, I'm probably more efficient. I'm getting up on time, right? So there's a lot to be said for that.
It's kind of like the vacation thing, the phenomenon that you go on vacation, that week before you go on vacation, you're getting more done than you did.
Yeah.
Because you gotta get it done. So just a kind of mindset of, I gotta get this done before I leave, and maybe make you more efficient and so forth. So
yeah, and you got to have something to look forward to as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kevin, and my listeners, if you guys think that you're kind of need some help in working out your life and work balance, then I'm going to put a little thing at the bottom of the show notes. You guys can get a hold of me, and we'll talk about how to balance out your life and work, and with your family and your time. So thank you guys very much. Kevin, thank you again.
Always.
All right. You guys, Hard Hat CEO, we will see you next week.